My mother-in-law kicked me out of her house because she disapproved of my decision to give birth at my parents' home. In a fit of anger, she dragged me out while I was still in my pajamas, refusing to let me even put on shoes, and sent me away with nothing but my phone. In a daze, I called my mom, who was nearby, and waited for her at a local diner. When my mom and sister heard what had happened, they were livid. They wasted no time in taking action, setting in motion a series of events that would soon bring serious trouble for both my mother-in-law and my husband. My name is Emma, and I'm 29. A year ago, I married Jerry, who's 31. His father owns a large company, and Jerry is being groomed to take over as the next CEO. Currently, he's getting hands-on experience at one of the smaller branches. I met Jerry at work, and had no idea about his family's business empire until just before our wedding. I was completely caught off guard when he revealed that he was in line to become the CEO. He's charismatic and well-liked, and once he explained, it all clicked. Just like that, I found myself married to the future head of a corporation. After we married, Jerry moved to the main office of the company, while I stayed at my job. My father-in-law seemed supportive, even telling me, "I've heard you're a young leader at your workplace. Keep up the good work." But my mother-in-law was another story. She would ask, why would a wife neglect her home to work, and strongly opposed me having a job. At first, I thought living separately from Jerry's parents would keep the peace, but I was wrong. They expressed a desire for us to move in with them, and that's when things started to fall apart. My father-in-law, citing his busy schedule, suggested it would be helpful to have someone around to help out, and Jerry liked the idea of us living together. "I'm worried about Mom. I've always lived here, so moving now just wouldn't work for me," Jerry explained. With the topic laid out before me, I found it hard to refuse. My mother-in-law quickly jumped in. "Since everyone thinks it's a good idea, Emma, do you have any objections?" Feeling trapped, I reluctantly agreed. Living under the same roof brought its challenges. My mother-in-law, who had already shown disdain for my job, began to make my life increasingly difficult. She insisted that I quit my job and take on all the household chores, even though I worked full-time. If she found even the smallest imperfection in my cleaning, whether a speck of dust or a stray hair, she demanded I redo it. At first, I tried to take her criticisms to heart and clean more thoroughly, but soon she was inspecting places I'd never thought to check, like behind the TV and between dressers. I felt her demands were unreasonable and excessive, and eventually, I had enough. "I can't clean these places every day. I work just like Jerry. I'll do a thorough clean on weekends, but there's no need to redo everything right now, okay?" I told her. My response only infuriated her further. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she shouted, calling Jerry into the room and falsely accusing me of yelling at her. She twisted my words and added a few fake tears for good measure. I hoped Jerry would defend me, but when he arrived, he only said, "Why did you upset Mom like that? She was just trying to help." To my disappointment, he sided with her, brushing aside my feelings completely. "Why are you getting upset?" Jerry reprimanded me, aligning with his mother. That was the moment I realized the only person in that house who might have had my back was my father-in-law. But with his frequent absences due to work, I was left to navigate the tension on my own. Over time, I learned that confronting my mother-in-law only led to more disputes, with her always running to Jerry to complain, and him offering no support. I quickly realized that the only way to avoid conflict was to become quieter, to keep my head down and endure. This strategy got me through the year, but then I began to experience health issues, and a visit to the doctor revealed more than just an illness. I was pregnant. Hesitant but hopeful about how Jerry and his family would react, I told Jerry first. "You know how I've been feeling sick lately? Well, I went to the doctor, and guess what? I'm pregnant," I told him. "That's great. I'm going to be a dad? Huh, can't wait. Do we know if it's a boy yet?" Jerry responded with excitement. "Not yet. Does it matter to you?" I asked, sensing an underlying expectation. "Of course it does. It has to be a boy," he insisted. Being an only child, he seemed to think a son was essential to carry on the family business. "What if it's a girl?" I asked, worried about how this would play out. "Don't worry, I'm sure it's a boy," he reassured me, though I wasn't so sure. We agreed to wait until we could confirm the gender before sharing the news with his parents. When we found out we were having a girl, I was ecstatic about my pregnancy, determined not to let any gender bias affect my joy. Jerry's reaction, however, was far less enthusiastic. "A girl? Are you sure? Get it checked again," he said, disappointment evident in his voice. His reaction left me anxious about how his mother would take the news. Despite his initial disappointment, I dreaded the conversation with my mother-in-law, uncertain how we'd navigate the challenges ahead. Eventually, we knew we couldn't keep the pregnancy a secret any longer. I gently encouraged Jerry to break the news to his parents. "Well, I'm pregnant," he told them. My father-in-law's face lit up with joy. "That's wonderful, Emma, we're finally going to have our first grandchild," he said, his happiness clear and genuine. But my mother-in-law's response was immediate, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "So, what's the gender?" she asked, hesitating slightly. "It's a girl," I answered. "A girl, huh? I hope she's as lovely as you, Emma," my father-in-law said, unbothered by the gender, offering me warmth and understanding. But my mother-in-law's disappointment was palpable. "A girl? Not a boy. It has to be a boy to make sense for Jerry," she muttered under her breath. I was taken aback by her response, but before things could escalate, my father-in-law stepped in. "Honey, why would you say that? Whether it's a boy or a girl, they're still our grandchild. Can't you just be happy for them?" he gently admonished her. Her mood shifted momentarily, but I could tell it wouldn't last. Sure enough, the next day, as soon as my father-in-law left for work, my mother-in-law confronted me. "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off on the housework. You're not planning to quit your job, are you? If not, keep up with your chores. Pregnancy isn't an illness, you know," she snapped. Hearing these words from her, a woman who had been pregnant herself, was jarring. It made me seriously question whether staying in this house was the best choice for my child. My family lived a 4-hour train ride away, and since my dad had passed early, my mom and older sister had been living together in our family home. Maybe I could go back there. I began to feel that giving birth at my in-laws' house might not offer the support I needed. I decided to call my mom right away. "Mom, it's me, Emma. What's going on?" "It's rare for you to call," she replied, concern in her voice. "What's happening?" "I'm pregnant, and I was thinking, could I come home to give birth?" "You're pregnant? You should have told us sooner. Congratulations." "Of course, you can come home for the delivery, but have you talked to your in-laws about this?" "Not yet," I admitted. "Make sure you discuss it with them first," Mom advised. "If they agree, then there's no issue." Encouraged by my mom's support, I decided to talk to Jerry about it. "I'm thinking of going home for the birth," I said, casually bringing it up. "Oh, going home for the birth? I guess that's fine," he replied nonchalantly. "My mom's here, so things should be fine around the house." His quick agreement surprised me, but I anticipated potential resistance from my mother-in-law. To be sure, I turned to my father-in-law. After thinking it over, I approached him. "I think it might be best for everyone if I went home for the delivery. Would that be all right?" He seemed taken aback at first, but then he reassured me. "If that's what you want, Emma, then it's probably the best decision. I won't oppose it. Maybe you could talk to your wife on my behalf?" "I'll tell her," he promised, sounding supportive of my decision. With his backing, I felt confident moving forward, but on the morning I was supposed to leave, I woke up to find my luggage missing. My heart sank as I realized both Jerry and my father-in-law had already left for work, leaving me with no choice but to confront my mother-in-law. "Do you know where my luggage is?" I asked hesitantly. "Oh, that luggage? I got rid of it," she snapped. "I don't need a daughter-in-law who causes so much trouble. Don't ever come back," she yelled, her aggression clear. Stunned, I realized that returning to my family wasn't just a preference, it was a necessity. As she shoved me out the door, I barely had time to process what was happening. Still in my pajamas, with only my phone in hand, I felt the finality as the door slammed shut behind me. The message was clear: I wasn't welcome. Barefoot on the hot pavement, I began to walk away, the harsh summer sun making it unbearable. I found a nearby diner and, using my phone, called my mom. She was furious and promised to be there within an hour. Fortunately, she wasn't far away. I spent that anxious hour in the diner waiting for my mom. When she arrived, there was no hesitation. She drove me straight back to our family home, where my sister was already waiting. I shared everything: my mother-in-law's harsh actions, my husband's indifference. My mom and sister exchanged a few quiet words, their murmurs leaving me wondering what they were planning. The next morning, being back at my family home felt like a breath of fresh air. When I went to fetch the newspaper, I opened the door to an unexpected sight. My mother-in-law and husband were kneeling outside. "Emma, I'm so sorry, it was all my fault. Please don't sever ties with my husband's company," my mother-in-law pleaded. "Emma, I'm sorry too. Please, can we continue doing business with my dad's company? My husband added, regret clear in his voice. Confused, I had no idea what they were talking about. Suddenly, my mom and sister appeared from behind. What on earth are you two doing, causing a scene this early? My mom asked, her voice sharp. What does resuming business mean? She probed, trying to understand their sudden change of heart. To avoid any further disturbance, my mom invited them inside. The atmosphere was tense, with unspoken questions hanging in the air as we all stepped back into the house. Once seated, my husband began to plead his case. Would you please consider doing business again with my dad's company? He asked. My mom and sister, who managed the company my late father had left behind, listened intently, curious about the details. I turned to my mom. What does it mean that they're doing business with my father-in-law's company? Yes, they work with one of their subsidiary companies, my mom explained. It's a major company within their group, second only to the main office, and their top client is your mom's company, my husband added, looking at me. This was news to me, and apparently to my husband as well. I chuckled. That's news to me too. I paused, reflecting further. Come to think of it, I remember my parents-in-law mentioning they've always been indebted to each other when they first met. I said. But the warmth of nostalgia quickly cooled when my mom cut in with firm resolve. I cannot continue doing business with a family that would send my daughter out in such a state, with just her phone. I'm stopping our business dealings. My mother-in-law, visibly shaken by my mom's declaration, pleaded desperately, please, I beg you, I'll do anything. Could you reconsider stopping the dealings with my husband's company? At that moment, my sister, with a smirk, chimed in, you said you'd do anything, right? So you'll agree to Emma's divorce, and naturally, you'll pay alimony and child support, right? Her words hit me hard. Just the day before, I had spoken to my husband about the situation. His response had been dismissive. It's what you deserve, isn't it? That callous remark had solidified my decision. Without hesitation, I found myself agreeing with my mom's stance. Any remaining affection for my husband had evaporated. I would have brought up divorce anyway, but my sister had effectively made the point for me. Thanks to my sister's timely comment, the dynamics of the conversation shifted decisively in our favor. My mother-in-law, though reluctant, finally asked, even if it means agreeing to a divorce, will you resume business with my husband's company? With a knowing smirk, my mom pulled out her phone and made a call. It seems this lady here agrees to my daughter's divorce, she said clearly into the phone. From the speaker, my father-in-law's voice came through. Got it. Hey, Maria, I'm divorcing you and Jerry, you're fired. Those were the drastic conditions he set for resuming business. Moreover, my mom declared firmly, I cannot forgive the two of you for how you treated Emma. You both deserve to be punished. This unexpected turn of events led to my mother-in-law losing her husband and my husband losing his job, income, and the support of his family. The fallout continued with a bitter divorce between my in-laws, expertly managed by a top-notch lawyer from my father-in-law's side. During the proceedings, assets were divided, and my mother-in-law ended up paying a significant sum in compensation to my husband and me. I, too, proceeded with the divorce. Living with a husband so heavily influenced by his mother was no longer viable for me. I received compensation for the emotional pain inflicted by my mother-in-law and husband, as well as child support for our unborn child. The financial strain on them was so severe that they had to dip into their savings and eventually take on debt. Under the powerful sway of my father-in-law and my mom, my now ex-husband found it challenging to secure a new job in his previous field. He ultimately had to switch careers and move into customer service. This marked a significant and perhaps humbling change in his professional life, underlining the profound consequences of the family turmoil. However, my ex-husband underestimated his new role in customer service and soon faced numerous complaints, leading to a swift termination. Now he's living with his mother, barely scraping by with daily wage jobs. My mother-in-law and husband, once accustomed to a lavish lifestyle, thanks to my father-in-law's generosity, now reside in a small one-bedroom apartment. Their relationship, once close, has soured, and they argue frequently. I sometimes wonder if there is any hope or joy left in their lives. Meanwhile, I safely gave birth at home to a healthy baby girl, surrounded by the support of my mom and sister. As things settle down, I'm planning to join my mom's company, looking forward to a new chapter in my professional life. I did inform my ex-husband about our daughter's birth, but he has not followed up, showing little interest. All I expect from him is to fulfill his obligations for child support. I have no intention of letting him be a part of our daughter's life from now on. My focus is on moving forward and living a fulfilling life with my daughter, supported by the love and strength of my family.